Okay, it's the end of the session. I'm here. This is Zeus, and this is Tank, excuse me, and this is the roadmap to success. Now, basically, when I first came in, the Guardians here have an electronic fence inside, and so it keeps the dog away from the door. And also, they kind of try to do one with the outside. Now, dogs, I used the shock collar on my own personal dog, Farley, a long time ago before I knew what I was doing, and I regret it. It always courses electricity through the dog's body, even if you're not actually shocking him. And late in life, if I touched Farley, he would jump. Just to go to pet him, he'd jump. And so it really messes with the electrical system. It's also the old way of dog training, which is known as dominance theory or alpha, or it's basically, it works based on the premise of I'm going to punish you for doing the wrong thing and reward you when you do the right thing. What I do as a dog psychologist is I try to use positive reinforcement and operant conditioning and classical conditioning. So what I do is I create a situation where the dog can only do a couple things. One of them is what I want. When the dog does what I want, I reward it and I mark the behavior with a one-word command. If the dog does anything else, nothing happens. After a while, it doesn't take the punishment for the dog to not want to do it. This causes the dog to want to do the thing that you want them to do because there's a benefit or reward for them. If I get shocked when I charge the fence, whatever I'm looking at when I get shocked is where I think the shock came from. This is why that often backfires. It seems to temporarily, it seems like it gets good results, but eventually you have that shock collar off. Sometimes the dog really, and I think we had an illustration of that when I first showed up, because normally Tank is not allowed to approach the door. I asked the Guardian to remove the shock collar, and when I came in, they were both excited, so I had them wait. Now, I was wearing a mask, which also I think confused the situation. But Tank, with a lot of eye contact, started lunging and pounding at the door, and he was not happy to see me. So we were obviously, I used tricks of the trade, and obviously see we're buddies now and no problems. But that could have been a result of I've always had this shock collar on. I never can approach the door. Now I can approach the door, and whoever it is, I'm going to let them have it because they're frustrated. And a lot of that aversive training method, the force and punishment-based training methods, creates frustration, anxiety, stress, and all aggression comes from stress. And so that's why if you're going to be hiring a dog trainer, make sure that they are 100% force-free and positive reinforcement. If they have to resort to a punishment-based method, I think that's an indication that they're not very good at their job. Because I've worked with 4,000 plus dogs, I've never needed to use those sort of things. I regret when I did it for my dog, and I did it just teach him to heel. But I regret doing it now. So, all right, so when we first got here, we had to take a little bit of time to get to know the dog, but then they started relaxing. So we started off by talking about really exercise. So remember, you can use the Doggy Stairmaster. You can order one of those Omega Paw treat balls. That's a nice thing for the dogs to have to kind of stimulate them, maybe if they're bugging your guest. Fill that up with some kibble and put it on the floor and let them roll it around. Be careful the other dog isn't there, because that might create some competition. You can also feed out of a snuffle mat. Now, first of all, let's talk about feeding before we get back to the exercise. Dogs, eating is everything to dogs. It's the most important activity for them. And so right now, the dogs are kind of free fed. They can eat whenever they want. So they leave the food there and they eat late at night. This promotes often being heavier, and both these dogs are a little bit, like myself, could drop a couple of pounds. So what I would suggest, you go to a structured feeding. You put both dogs bowls of dog food down, and then the dogs have to stay out of the kitchen or whatever the area is. The human who's feeding them eats something in 5 or more bites, or eats a real meal first. Then we're going to invite Zeus to come up first, since he's the older dog, and when he takes his first bite of food, come up with a fun command word. Call it gyros, or pork chop, or whatever. Zeus, Greek, gyros. And so when he takes a bite of food, we hear the word gyro, and when Tank hears the word, he doesn't, the word gyro, there's no food in his mouth, so it doesn't mean the same thing. After a while, gyro becomes Zeus's command word, eat. So when Zeus is eating, Tank is not allowed to be in the kitchen or within 10 feet of Zeus. When Zeus walks away from his bowl, we pick up the bowl, we dump any remaining food out, and we put the empty bowl back down, and he does not eat again until the next meal. And then he has to leave the area, and then we invite Tank in. When Tank comes in to eat, maybe we call his pork chop. So every time he takes his first bite of food for 4 months, he hears the word pork chop. So eventually that becomes his command word. And when he's eating, we don't let Zeus nearby. So both dogs see that we eat first, that we control the food situation, and that we don't let the other dog near them when they're eating. And that will help Tank challenge Zeus a little bit less and see Zeus as more of an authoritative position. All right, and remember, if the dogs don't eat, you're not saying you can't eat. We're just saying you have to eat in this time, in this situation. If you don't eat again until the next meal. And it very likely will go a couple days before they eat, and that's okay. You're offering the ability to eat. They're choosing not to. That's ethical. It's not ethical to withhold food from dogs. I would also recommend for Zeus, since he's an old dog, you order Cosequin, Cosequin, get the double strength. read the bottle. He'll probably need to get 4 or 5 pills a day for about a week or 2 to build it up, and then he'd probably go down to about 3 or 4 pills a day. And that will really help with his joints. I would also get some fresh green beans, chop them up. You don't have to cook them. Just chop them up into little bits and sprinkle those in his food. And then start substituting. Take some of the food out. The fiber from the green beans will help him feel full. He's going to live a lot longer. Just you overtax his joints. That's usually when, at the end of the life, when we have to put a dog down when their leg stops working. We don't want that to be the case. So let's have him be 100%. Take a little bit of that weight off. He'll live longer. Yeah. All right, so feeding out of the snuffle mat, remember, is very draining. But what I'd like you to do is first get the dogs eating out of the bowls when you feed them. So we do what I described earlier. Put the food in both bowls. Dogs are out of the kitchen first. We put the food in both bowls. They have to stay out of the kitchen. I eat something first. I invite Zeus over. When Zeus gets done, I dump what's remaining, put the bowl back down on the floor. That's important. Then he leaves the room. Then Tank comes in, same thing. Then I dump any remaining food, and then they don't eat again until the next meal. And then you just keep on repeating that until you get about a week of where they're waiting for each other and then they come and eat one at a time. At that point, you can switch over to feeding them out of that snuffle mat. Remember, the snuffle mat is almost like a walk. So feeding them each out of a snuffle mat is a nice way. It'll slow down the feeding process, but you get a benefit of that exercise. It's also stimulating for them, relaxing and comforting, and it helps boost their confidence because they're earning their food. So there's a lot of benefits to that. Remember for Zeus to do the drop. So when he has a ball, Zeus. So he's got a ball in his mouth, just hold the treat here, and we'll talk about your hard mouth in a second. Hold the treat here and wait for him to drop it. When he drops it, don't show any interest in it. Pop the treat in his mouth, say drop, and then don't pick up the ball. Now for his hard mouth, what you can do is get a spoon, put peanut butter in it, and put some of his kibble on top of the peanut butter, and hold it out. He'll chomp on the whole spoon, and he won't like the metal. And so eventually he'll start licking the treats off. When he does, assign the command word gentle or tender or whatever you want to use. And then when you give a treat, you say tender. He goes, no, I use my lips and my tongue for that one. Okay. Other forms of exercise, getting back to transitioning to that, you can do the dog skiing that I showed you. If you want to do that and you have difficulty, let me know. I can have your young one come over to my house and I can show him how to dog ski with my dogs so he can get used to it first. And then that way he kind of knows how to do it and he can teach the dogs here. Also, the doggy stairmaster. Remember, all this exercise should be done with an empty stomach. And for him, because if he has issues with his hindquarters, you might want to check with your vet. Hopefully you find another vet that's not a chain. But check with them. They might not want him going up and down the stairs. Shepherds are prone to hip dysplasia. He's already an older dog. So for him, it might be scent games or the Omega Paw treat ball where we're having Tank run up and down the stairs. Okay, we can also get a backpack for Tank and put some weight in it. Make sure you let Tank sniff as much as he wants on walks. Don't ever pull him away from sniffs as long as it's safe to do so. Remember, they burn more energy on a walk by sniffing than he does from actually walking. Let me see, also scent games. Just Google scent games. You can hide treats around your house and then the dog's got to use them and don't find it. That would be another great thing for Zeus to do. And the ball, I think, would be great for Zeus because he's a ball dog anyways. And so I think he'll get it right away. You might have to roll it for him a little bit at first, but eventually he'll just nudge that sucker around. It's low impact. He can get some exercise. So maybe you give him the Omega Paw treat ball in a room so it can't get caught under the couch or something. While he's doing that, we're tossing the treats up and down the stairs with Tank. So we're exercising both dogs in a different way because one's over 10 and one's only, not even 3. Okay, also make sure that you get Tank adjusted pretty quickly because remember, it'll take 3 weeks to get that hormone out of his system and that is related to territorial behavior and some of the other problems that you're having. I haven't gotten to the celebrate yet. All right, so that's exercise. Let me see, what else could you do for exercise? That's, those are good things for you to do. For the exercise, remember though, also for the leash, practice leashing him up without getting excited. So the first step is you walk to where the leash is or where the muzzle is. And if either dog's right in front of you, you go sit back down, and this is best done when you're not planning on muzzling or treat, taking for a walk. Wait for them to settle down, then get up and walk back towards where it is. Keep on repeating that until they stay behind you the whole distance there. Then when you get there, you tell them to sit. Don't pick up the muzzle or reach for the leash until they're sitting. And remember, you only say it once. If they don't sit within 3 seconds, walk away and do it somewhere else. That's why it's good to do this when you're not planning on going for a walk or actually using the muzzle. So eventually they'll stay seated, or they'll sit, and then you reach for the leash, and they get up, you pull your arm back and say sit again. If he sits within 3 seconds, I try again. If he doesn't, I walk all the way and go sit down on the couch. And then wait for the dog to lose interest before I practice again. So the idea is we're just going to help practice this, and eventually they don't get as excited. Remember, the energy they have inside the house as you leash them is the energy they're going to carry on the walk. So if we can exercise them before the walk can really help. Just make sure they have 10 minutes of rest before you start the leashing process. But if we teach them to be calm when we leash or muzzle them, and we exercise them first, then we're going to have much better walks when we do actually get out there walking. Okay, so let me see, what else? We also talked about rules. Remember, enforcing rules not mean, and rewarding a dog by breaking a rule is very confusing. So don't break the rule to reward the dog. If you want to reward them, give them a belly rub, play fetch. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. Don't reward them by breaking the rule. So basically, some of the rules we covered: not being allowed on the couch or those X mats. That'll help with that. I would avoid holding the treats up and training Tank to jump up, because again, it's just he's lunging already, and so we don't want to do any activity that's going to be the emulation of that. Also, for the kids, don't let them play too rough. So they can play with Tank. I mean, I would actually make that for a game. Yes, play with Tank. Get them all riled up, but never pass level 5 energy. As soon as he passes level 5 energy, all the kids just stop and cross their arms and freeze. And Tank's going to run from one person, jump up the next. Nobody's playing with me. Wait for his energy to come back to a level 1, then time in, and then we play the game again. That's wonderful practice. That would be a great activity. But if we let him go past level 5 energy, if it's a scale of 1 to 10, he gets a little bit confused. And then they're going to practice playing that too high intensity. That's where problems come. So remember, the idea is to come up with exercise, a regimen of exercise that's going to work for your lifestyle. It needs to happen every 2 to 4 hours. If Tank comes up to you, he's nudging you or he's staring at you, remember, he's probably, ask yourself, how long has it been since he's been exercised? If it's longer than an hour, do the doggy stairmaster. Remember, do that with an empty stomach as well. And remember, it's going to be a different amount of exercise for different activities. Maybe before a walk, Tank needs to get 20 up-downs on the stairs. Before a guest comes over, maybe that's 15. Before the neighbor kid comes out with the baby, maybe that's 25 or 35. You know, so there's going to be different iterations. And you might have one person that comes over is really crazy high energy. Well, you might have to get Tank 44 fetches for that one. Somebody else comes over, they're relaxed and chill. Maybe he only needs 15 for those. So kind of keep playing with those elements. Keep a little journal. Sometimes it helps. When Mary came over, we tried 25, and his behavior was a C. Mary came over the next time, and we gave him 35, and he had a B+. So we're going the right direction. You want to find that Goldilocks amount of exercise. All right, so remember, dogs go through repetition, consistency, and good timing. You have 3 seconds to correct or reward your dog for them to have the ability to make the connection. But you have to repeat it enough times before they make before the light bulb comes on. Consistency is super important. The more consistent you are, the faster the dogs will get there. Remember, anything a dog does in your presence that you don't disagree with, you're saying thumbs up, I like that. The only time I wouldn't do that is if Zeus is demand barking. I would give no attention, because remember, good attention, bad attention, same thing. Also remember that not saying no is very similar to saying yes to dogs. So we're not going to let him stand next to us when we're at the table. Or if one dog's eating or has an object, we're not going to let the other dog come and stand next to it. We're going to intercede and stand up, use those escalating consequences, put my back to the dog that's got the item, and make the other dog move away. And so we want to promote not stealing and things from each other. And for other rules, not being allowed to be within in the kitchen where we're preparing food, not be allowed in the at the work island or around the kitchen table or the couch if anybody's eating food there. You might put that Tainer's tape down the kind of where I showed you, and you kind of create some zones. So when you're eating, you can't in the kitchen, you can't, or in the dining room, you can't come past this line. The bar, you can't do that line. We're at the carpet. We can't be on the carpet in the living room when we're eating snacks or food there. So the more that they practice not crossing an invisible line, the more practicing they have for self-restraint, self-control. I'd also practice closing the dog door for a couple hours a day. And then that way the dogs have to ask to go out the door. We go to the door, we tell them to sit one time. If they sit, within 3 seconds, we open the door and let that dog out. If the other dog didn't sit, then we close the door and don't let that dog out. And if they don't sit, either one of them, we walk away. We only say it once. They have 3 seconds to comply. If we don't, we walk away, sit down, we wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, go back to the door and give them another opportunity to do it one time. Sit. 1, 2, 3. Then I walk down and sit down for 2 minutes. Next time, 4 minutes, 8 minutes. Make sure you're seated, because standing looks like you're waiting for the dog. And as soon as they sit, you open that door. And so this is a nice way to get them to, again, start seeing the humans as leaders. I have to ask permission, and I have to do something for the human in order to get the privilege of going outside. That's known as a pre-mac. A less desirable behavior leads to a more desirable behavior. I sit at the door, and that causes the door to open. And so it's not a treat, the behavior is the reward. So those are examples of rules, but there's probably other rules that you can incorporate. So try to look for rules. Remember, rules thing the dog wants to do, likes to do, has the ability to do, but doesn't do without an invitation or permission. So the more the dogs have to ask permission from you, the more they're acting like a leader, or you're acting like a leader, the more respect they'll have. We need both these dogs to go off duty of being in charge of being the guard dogs. Let me see, what else? We all went over the escalating consequences. I showed you how to do that in the kitchen. We also went over the focus exercise. For the focus exercise, make sure that everybody's doing that a couple of times a day. By the time you see this, probably going to be about a week after the session. But brush up on it. This is one that you really want to, and follow the instructions in it, but you really want to be able to do it anywhere, and you say focus, the dog stops what it's doing and looks up at you, but it takes a lot of practice to get there. Let me see, what else? Something just flew off the table. I'll have to figure out what that was. Go to the green spot, get some cow kneecaps, get some bully sticks, they have tracheas, cow cheeks, all sorts of different animal parts that are good that the dog can ingest. So those are great things when you have a guest to come over to give the dog, and something the dog is preoccupied. Also, when dogs are stressed, they like to chew, so give them the stuff they can chew, that's going to help quite a bit. All right, now I'd like you to practice all this stuff for about a month. In a month, I'd like you to give me a call and let me know how things are going. If he's still lunging at the neighbor, or we having problems with the baby crying baby, or the relatives or whatever, we can set up a 1-hour follow-up session, which I think we probably will need to, where we can work on some of these specific things. I really want you to focus on this next month, petting with a purpose, passive training. Didn't go over both those, so let's go over those real quick. Petting with a purpose, if the dog tells you, nudges you, stares at you, paws at you for attention, it's telling you what to do. Instead of doing what the dog wants, I want you to give the dog a counter order, tell it to sit. If it's sitting here, tell it to sit over here, or tell it to lie down. No more high five. Really, I would recommend not doing it at all, or shake, because that promotes client putting its paws on you. So if the dog complies within 3 seconds of me saying sit the first time, I would pet it under its chin, and I say the word sit and only the word sit, and pet as long or as little as I want. If I pet a little bit and then the dog comes and nudges me again, I say sit, it sits again. If it does it a third time, I'm probably going to interpret that as it needs some exercise, take it outside, play fetch, or do the doggy stairmaster, whatever it is. Now if I tell the dog to sit and it doesn't sit the first time I say it, remember, playing hard to get works great for dog training as well as it does for dating. So show the dog you have other things to do, and then wait for the dog to lose interest before you can re-engage it with that again. After a while, the dog will realize, I can't tell the humans what to do anymore. I have to ask, and I have to pay for the privilege of this attention. I pay for it through a currency of obedience. The dog will come and start sitting in front of you to ask for attention. When it does, you bet your butt we better start petting that dog. Remember to pet under the chin, never over the head. You can pet anywhere you want, but try to pet under the chin if all things are equal. And say the command word, whatever, sit. Not good sit, just sit. And then pet as much or as little as you want. So after a while, the dog will start sitting to prepay for that attention, and make sure, again, that you do recognize that. And if it doesn't get your attention. Remember to use the watchword of paycheck. Paycheck means I suspect you forgot to pet with the purpose. Even if you did it right, you would stop petting, tell the dog to sit again. If it sits, you pet on the chin, say, sit. Dad, I actually asked the dog to sit and you missed it, but thanks for reminding me. I do forget to pet without a purpose. And even if you want to pet the dog should still have to do something to earn it. And also the kids' friends that come over, same rules. The more that the dog does things with them, the better it's going to do with other people outside the house. So that is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful practice. So please take advantage of that. Anytime the kids have friends come over, make sure they're petting with a purpose. Also, make sure you're celebrating the things the dog does that you like. I call this passive training. Every time the dog comes to you, pet it and say come. Every time it sits, your command word for sit. Every time it lays down, pet it and say plots. Fun words for eating food. So the idea is you come up with all these fun command words, and any new commands that you come up with, I'd like you to use a fun command word. Don't say, crawl, call it sneaky, or ninja, or something like that that's going to make people smile and laugh. I'd like you to come up with a list of the official command words, write down the official commands for each thing, and you say vocabulary if somebody's using a different version of the word. Come here, vocabulary. Oh, thanks, come. Also, I say Scrabble. People are saying, oh, what a good boy, you sat down. Well, that's too many words. Remember, they hear the first word you say. So, oh, what a good boy, you sat down. Scrabble. Sit, sit. I like to say it twice. I tell the dog what to do. If it does it when I pet it, I say the same command word a second time. Say it in the same pronunciation as well. I also say repeat or rerun of repeating command. Remember, the more you say it, the less you need it. You repeat a command too much, the dog will stop listening for it. Let me see. So celebrate would be you're missing an opportunity to pet the dog. So if the dog walks up to me and I don't see it, somebody says celebrate, I just look at the dog and start petting it. Then I would identify what it's doing and then say what it is. So it's standing. Somebody says celebrate, I see a standing dog, I pet it and say, I would just say come. If it's sitting, it's pretty obvious. Laying down, pretty obvious. But the more that you come up with these fun command words, and the better the tone is, and the more that you use these that you reward the dog for the things that you want, the more the dog will emulate those behaviors as opposed to jumping, barking, lunging, and all the other stuff that you don't want. Now, we do a loose leash walking class. We start at the beginning of each month. We're starting one in June, so if you want to do one for July, let us know. Probably be good. We have a lot of other dogs there, but they come at a staggered time. So there'll be dogs that you can practice around, but you can manage to keep enough distance so that your dog is not reacting. And because he's so powerful, it'd be a great thing for you to do, just because it's nice to be able to walk your dog. It doesn't teach him to walk with a heel, just not to pull or lunge on the leash. And it's not negative. There's no punishment. There's no treats. It's a really cool method. Zeus, come. Zeus, here. Come on, buddy. I love the old dogs. I lost my old dog, so Zeus, we're gonna hopefully hook you up with some Cosequin so that you don't have those achy joints. And get those bully sticks and all the rest of that stuff. Also remember to pull out treats every once in a while. Pull out one treat and say, come. Whoever comes first gets the treat. Whoever comes second doesn't get anything unless they give you the same effort. After all, that motivates the dogs to want to come over to you. I think that's about it. Well, on behalf of my buddy Zeus, Tank is probably already in the house enjoying the AC. We're gonna get you some AC right now, buddy. I'm petting on top of the head. I always tell people not to do that. And try to avoid saying good sit, just say sit. Try to avoid saying good dog, just say the command word. You'll make a lot better progress. All right, well, this is Zeus, and I'm David, and this is Zeus and Tank's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.